it looks like you had some questions, like what happened to my partner Flo and what's going on with my sailboat Carl. And there was also a bunch of boat search specific questions that you've had. Also, I noticed that some of you, especially those who've been following this journey for quite some while, have been somewhat confused. And honestly, I totally get it. Because one moment I'm sailing around Africa with Flo, the next you see me searching for a canal boat, and then you see thumbnails of me from real-time videos where I'm in the middle of a massive boat refit. Maybe let's clear up the timeline first before I answer all the questions that you've had. Maybe visualizing with a little timeline will help. In spring 2023, while I was sailing in El Salvador and Mexico, I started longing for a little more stability in my life. I had been living and sailing pretty much full-time aboard Carl since 2013, and a part of me was ready for something a little more rooted, still on the water, obviously. So in September 2023, I went on a quest to find a Dutch barge in the Netherlands and Belgium. That is basically what you're watching in the new episodes right now. And before you go, boo-hoo, the footage is that old, please remember that this is my actual life that we're talking about. Right, Boogie? Most of you are watching these movies for free, and although I'm putting a lot of time and passion into creating these videos, I am not a professional media production company making a shitload of money. I am just a simple boat woman sharing my life with you. And this exact life sometimes makes it a little tricky to stay consistent on YouTube. Are you like really in my face? Okay, but back to the timeline. During that boat search, I met Flo in France and jokingly said that I would join him for an Atlantic crossing aboard his sailboat Santana. But first, we thought it might be wise to find out whether we could actually get along on a sailboat. So he joined me for 3 months aboard Carl in Mexico, which is when you first saw him pop up in my sailing videos. Well, we fell in love, became a couple, and things became complicated pretty quickly. We put Carl on the hard in Mexico in the summer of 2024. I found and bought a barge and moved it to northern Germany. And suddenly, between the two of us, we had 2 sailboats and 1 massive Dutch barge. So we did what any sane multiple boat couple would do. We decided to split our time. Part of the year we would sail aboard Santana, and the other part I would spend with my new barge. During the winter of 2024-25, Flo and I sailed from the Mediterranean to Morocco and the Canary Islands. When I shortly returned to the barge during winter, I noticed just how much condensation there was inside and how badly she was insulated. And somehow, more about that later, I decided that the logical solution was to tear the entire boat apart in the summer of 2025. Then I went back to Santana and we sailed from the Canary Islands to Cape Verde and onwards to the African mainland. When I returned to Europe this spring, I noticed that I really wanted to focus more of my time and energy on the refit. And I also finally wanted to share this really important phase of my life with you. And because the gap between the current videos and what's happening right now in my life is so big at the moment, and I know how much you love to have really recent updates, I decided to make weekly, uncut, unedited updates from the refit, just to give you a quick update of what's happening each week right now, this moment. I believe the easiest way to stay sane with all of this is if you follow the playlists that I have created. I will put them down in the description of this video. Make sure that you save them for future sanity. So there is one for my sailing adventures with Flo, which is the season 8 of Untie the Lines, which is currently put on hold until further notice. And then there's Roots on Water, which is the current new YouTube series that I'm running about my canal boat life. And the third one is what I call the messy refit log, which is the real-time updates that I'm doing each week, but they're uncut and unedited, which is why I'm not airing them out in my feed, but you can access them over the playlist, or you can access them over the posts on my YouTube wall, or you can join Patreon, because they're also available on Patreon for free Patreon members. I think once you know that, it's super simple, right? So who's still here for the questions? Maybe we're going to start with the big one. Where's Flo and are we still a couple? We sailed Santana during winter, spring, from the Cape Verde Islands to Senegal and then to the Gambia. And I flew to northern Germany from there to keep working or to continue the refit on Anna Maria. And Flo stayed a little longer, and right now he's in Switzerland doing some work there, and we hope to be sailing up the Gambia River in winter together. So yes, we're still a couple. We're just currently working on different things. What about my lovely sailboat, Carl? Well, I made a video about that. You can watch it here. I think that will explain a lot. I visited him last November. He's still up on the Heart in Mexico. And I gave myself another year to decide what I want to do with him. And that's coming up this November. And I'm tending towards selling him, because it's not fair to him that he's sort of standing around, and right now with the whole situation I don't really have enough time for him, and yeah, so right now the tendency is to sell him, but it's not November yet. But anyone interested buying Carl? Let me know in the comments. Why getting a boat that's larger than 20 meters? Or why getting a boat that is so large? Anyways, why don't you stick with one that's like 11 to 15 meters? So since 2013, I've been living on an 11-meter long sailboat, pretty much full time. Yes, it's possible, and I love the downsizing part of it and having to minimalize and really just having the things that you need. I started to long for having some kind of shelves and maybe a fridge that you can open like this. And although probably all of that is possible with 15 meters, there's a couple of more reasons why I wanted a slightly larger boat. There is going to be a full video on what I want from this barge, so I'm not going to go in detail with this particular one. But yeah, it was mostly wanting to have something that feels a bit more spacious. Yeah. Some of you obviously know a little bit about barges in Europe and have pointed out that especially going beyond 20 meters sounds kind of insane to them. For those of you who are not so deeply into that topic, barges or boats in Europe that are larger than 20 centimeters, meters obviously, they need a special certificate every 7 years. They need to be measured and inspected. By the way, these are some of my measurement marks from last Friday. And also in Germany, you need like a specific small river patent to actually navigate one of these large beasts. And it is extra work that needs to be done, and you have to go through all of that if you have a boat that's larger than 20 meters. There's one big reason why I dared to do this, and maybe this is stupid, but we'll see over the years how it peters out. The price value ratio, so what you get for the money, is a lot better if you buy a slightly larger boat, like above 20 meters. Obviously, because people don't want to go through the hassle of the inspections and certification process, getting the patent. The ones that are less than 20 meters, there's a much larger market, so prices are higher, and for the same price of a well-fitted barge above 20 meter, I wouldn't get very far lower than 20 meter. At least that was how it was like when I was searching. And call me crazy, but I went for spending less money for the boat, but having to do some work instead. Some of you were worried about the prices of residential moorings in the Netherlands and asking if I was also looking for a mooring. I'm not. I'm actually having the boat in northern Germany. So and not in a residential place, but in a spot at a shipyard, more or less. Marina-ish shipyard. Won't I miss sailing or life on a sailboat? I would. I definitely would. I love living on a sailboat, traveling with a sailboat, being so close to nature, cutting down to all the essentials that you need in life, exploring, meeting new people, all of these things. I love them and I do want them in my life. And guess what? It's not an either or, it's an and. I want to have this barge as a foundation here in Northern Europe to be close to family. And I'm not even sure how much time I want to spend here during the year. Maybe half a year, maybe sometimes 3 months. I want to rent it out in the time that I'm not here to also pay for the bills that this little lady is gonna gather. And the rest of the time, I still want to be exploring by sailboat, if all goes well. Fingers crossed. Is it possible that I enjoy a refit more than sailing and exploring? Well, I think that's a really good question. I can see why you're asking that. And honestly, I love both. And I'm extremely grateful that I get to have both of them in my life, because I love to enjoy both parts of it and mix them together whenever I can. There's one thing that keeps popping up. People wondering how many languages I speak. I'm German native speaker. I am, I'd say, fairly fluent in English, pretty fluent in Spanish, and I can get by with French. It was really beautiful to practice my French a little bit in Senegal when we're sailing there in the river system this spring. And I did try to learn some Portuguese when we were in Cape Verdes, just because it's a Roman language, and that sort of like is a lot easier for me than learning something that's within a completely different language system. So yeah, that's it. Some of you had a lot of valuable information for me about old steel boats and maintaining them, so thank you very much for taking the time to comment on that. Some of you were worried that, or asking if, I was sure that I was up for the workload that comes with a project like this. Maybe. Now, the funny thing is, I know it's a lot of work, and I actually think most likely I did bite off a little bit more than I could chew. Once again, on the other hand, what I notice with this refit is that I feel so alive when I'm pushing myself beyond my comfort zone, doing things that I don't know anything about in the beginning, learning, being exhausted from all the work, but then, feeling this sense of accomplishment when a project is done and looking at the result and go like, hey, you know what? I did this with my own hands, or maybe with a little help of my friends. But I find it really satisfying to do this work. So I believe I am exactly where I want to be. Yes. Even if it's not always easy, but it's a lot of fun too. And last but not least, I wanted to give a very warm welcome to all the new people here. Thank you for joining the journey, and I look forward to meeting you in the comments and getting to know you along the way. And those of you who've been on this journey with me for years now, thank you for being by my side during all these years. It truly warms my heart to see familiar names pop up in the comment sections and reading that you've been with me on this journey for so many years. And it just adds a really special layer to this journey, and I'm deeply grateful that I can share this with all of you. Yeah, so I think that's it. I hope that I could answer a couple of your questions, and I do hope that you have a bit less confusion going on. I'll put all the links to the playlist in the description, and for those of you who are not subscribed yet, make sure to hit that button, and I'll see you next week with a new episode. But more about that soon.